Okay, so let's kind of segue into the perennial yield that you refer to often. Where do you get your numbers for perennial yield?
Right off the state's right off the state's hydrographic.
Is that particular just to the Virgin Valley Water District or the Virgin Valley, or the Basin 222,
Basin 222.
or is it?
Basin 222, you could look it up.
Okay.
Each of the 256 basins has a perennial yield and a whole list of permits.
The last study that was done, and granted it's quite old, is a 2002 study, shows the recharge of Basin 222 to be 40,000 acre feet of water. And the water district has quite a few monitoring wells that are showing no stress over the aquifer. And they also have quite a few rain gauges set in the surrounding mountains and surrounding desert that shows, surprisingly, shows that over the last 5 years, we have actually had adequate precipitation to replenish the aquifer.
Are you, a 2002 study, are you referring to
Yes.
the 2010 study?
No, 2002.
Well, there was a 2010 study by the USGS that looked at.
Not in Basin 222.
Yes, it was in Basin 2, it included Basin 222. 2010 USGS included Basin 222. And they found in that study that the discharge exceeded the recharge. Now, and I'll be frank with you on that. Now, the error rates in that study were so high that I usually don't even talk about it. But whether or not we're talking
Then
about...
wouldn't that discount the results?
No more than that 2002 study would.
No, that wasn't found to have quite a few errors in it.
I haven't seen a 2002, but this is a 2010. Who did that 2002 study?
That I can't answer.
Well, I have to look at the official studies. I looked at the USGS study in 2010. And you talk about rain gauges, and you talk about pump flows, and you talk about all of this kind of stuff. That's fine. But that does not answer the question about the conjunctive water in this basin that's required to be looked at by, it's a state policy. So, you know, they could have done something in 2002. They could have done something last year. But what the legislature said is the state policy of the state of Nevada that we will do conjunctive studies. And conjunctive studies means an all-source study.
And the only source that is not included in our study from the water district is the effluent water from the city's sewer treatment plant.
I can't where is the official study? The official, not somebody's
At the water
opinion.
district. It's not an opinion, it's the master plan that was done in 2013 that's at the water district. And the only part
What does
of
that study say?
The only part of that doesn't currently meet the Senate Bill 150 that you refer to is any discussion on the city's reuse water and how that plays a role in the overall water plan.
Did that
That's
study-
the only thing that's not included that you say is required under this SB 150. Everything
But you
else
can't
is included.
You can't tell me who did the study?
It was the Virgin Valley Water District who hired Bowen and Collins associate, who is the source of quite a bit of information.
I've read the 2012 Bowen and Collins study. I've read the 2017 Bowen and Collins study. I've read the 2020 Bowen and Collins study. I've read the 2020 SDC study. All of those studies do the same thing time and time again. They say we're going to have a population growth that's going to go out here to 2070 or 2060 or 2080, and therefore we have water. In none of those documents that I've read by Bowen and Collins is there an official hydrographic study of the basin. Not one. opinion is one thing. Going out there and saying the population is going to grow, therefore we have water, that's not a study. Saying that we have permits, we have, 2,000 permits, that's not a study. Saying that we can pump, 15,000 acre-feet of water, that's not a study. Saying that the pumps will, pop up with water is not a hydrographic study.
Are you saying that the state engineer is wrong in appropriating and allowing us to pump up to 12,271 acre feet?
If you understand the history of the state engineer,
I do.
then good, tell me what you know.
No, I'm not answering the questions. You are. I'm not running.
Let's go back to what Jason King has said about these studies. In numerous documents, I could provide you the sources if you want. The last one was the 2019 testimony, I think, before one of the committees. These permit levels were established, and I'll use the words of Jason King. They were established at a time in which nobody in Nevada thought that we'd be taking more water out of these basins than is appropriate. And they were granted at a time before these perennial yields were considered serious.
If he has a serious problem with that, he can always come back and lower those permit numbers, and he has not done that. Neither Jason King nor the current state engineer. They have the ability, the right, and the law to lower those rates or lower those appropriations, and they haven't done that.
No, what the state legislature, what they did is they went to the legislature and they said, we need to study these basins and we want your approval, legislature, to do it. Here's how we want to do it. We want to do it conjunctively. And that's what they passed in 2017. Said it is the policy of the state of Nevada that we will study these basins conjunctively.
But we have, except for effluent water, and I'm not sure how much that would.
You're saying that you're attempting to convince me that a Bowen and Collins study, and if you have one that's not the 2012 or the 2017 or the 2020 studies, I'd be happy to read it. But those studies are not hydrographic water studies. They are not. All they do is look at population growth and how many permits you have and how much.
The state engineer accepted them.
For what reason? Show me the document that says the state engineer accepted them. All of these permits that have been granted some of them go back to, when Farmstead was doing some of these wells were handed over to the water district. These permits are old. These certifications, they're old. And I've told you, you asked me what the state engineer said about permits, I told you what the state engineer said about permits. And I've told you that in order to do these things now, they want to do a conjunctive study. That's what the policy of the state of Nevada is, do conjunctive studies on all of the basins. So what don't you understand about that?
Okay, we're going to move on.